You have a weak mind, and that's okay. But what's not okay is staying there. In life, we don't get to decide what happens to us, but we get to decide how we act upon those things that happen to us. There's really two options. It's either you dwell in what was in the past and what happened to you, or you start to move forward to greater. The belief that you cannot change leads to a victim mentality. If you are determined by nature to be what you are, then there's nothing you can do about your lot in life. Conversely, the belief that you can change leads you to take responsibility. Now, normally, when you're starting off with a weak mind, that usually shows up in hard times. And let's be honest, we're human, so we're gonna go through hard times. The idea is you have to be able to take every thought captive. Now, what does that mean? You've probably heard that before. You have to be like a gardener. Probably heard it before, but your mind is a garden. You know, good seed, good outcome, bad seed, bad outcome, so forth and so on. So if you allow bad seed or bad thoughts to ruminate and take hold into your mind, then that will lead you into a life of lack. Then you'll all of a sudden come to the place to where it's like, why am I thinking like this? Why am I thinking on these things? And what's actually happening to me? And that's why when we think about consuming content, right? That's the whole thing, that you're consuming it. And one good quote that I really like is that your eyes is like the lamp of your soul. And so whatever you're consuming will lead to what you're thinking about. And so if you're consuming bad stuff, you're consuming darkness, then that will be what your outcome will be. That's what you'll produce in your life. And so it's about switching it and saying, okay, if I know I'm letting darkness in or nonsense in, we all know scrolling on TikTok for, 6 hours a day or whatever your vice is, that the more and more you look at that, you become desensitized and you can't take every thought captive. And so that's really the issue there, is understanding how you can take every thought, take it captive, and then really beat it unto submission. So then now you can gain mastery of thinking. And that's really the bedrock of getting through hard times, is that you know how to think and you know how to persevere. Now, a moment ago, I was saying that you need to change your mind, but the question leads is, how in the world do you do that? So really the idea of changing your mind, and like I said, Dr. Caroline Leaf, she puts it perfectly, of the idea of neuroplasticity. Now, I'm not a psychologist, nor do I know, or neurologist, but from my research and understanding how the brain works, is that, again, neuroplasticity is that your brain has the ability to change. That if you put in the work and you're examining your thoughts, you're able to come to a place of freedom. So it's almost like a superpower to be able to, process your thoughts and then take it captive, so you know exactly what's coming through. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything be excellent or praiseworthy, think on such things. And again, we hear things like that throughout our life, but what is it actually saying? It's all about the garden idea of your mind. If you just look at your mind, your brain as a garden, then you'll be like, okay, wow, I have to trim that out. I have to cut this out. I have to tend to this. Because a lot of the mindset and a lot of the things that we think and the thoughts that we have are based on, not thinking of things that are pure and admirable, that are worthy of praise. And the idea of knowing what is a good and a bad thought, it's a whole separate idea. It's a whole separate video that I could do one day. But understanding that, essentially, if that thought is not serving you, then it's a bad thought. If it's not serving you for better, then it's bad. If you're going through a bad time and you feel depressed or you have anxiety, right, that's just a signal that there's something going on within your brain. And sometimes that could just be the idea of cognitive dissonance, where you believe one thing, but you're doing another thing, right? And your brain can't deal. Human beings cannot deal in cognitive dissonance. We're not a computer. And so we have to be able to see, what are those things? Where am I lying to myself in certain areas of my life that is bringing up these hard times and that's allowing my brain not to function at a high level? It's probably because there's an area in your life that you're lying to yourself. And I've gone through it before. I'm not just speaking. I go through this on a daily basis to be able to till the ground of my mind so that I can come to a place and understand the good and the bad sides of it. So really, we have the ability to control what we think about, and meditate on is probably even a better word, because really, at the end of the day, we're all meditating on something, right? Whether it be good or bad, or neutral in that sense, but thinking about something daily and constantly throughout the day, you're meditating on that thing. And that can be a good thing if you're meditating on ways to make more money, or to be a better person, or to have better relationships, whatever that is. That's great. But then the opposite is bad, because then now you're that's where anxiety is created, and depression and all that stuff is created, because you're focusing on the bad thing. So if you focus on bad, then you have no other option for things to be bad for you, because then your actions will be such in a way that will attract bad things. And that's a very interesting concept. I was actually just talking to a friend recently, and he was just realizing that essentially that love and fear can't live in the same space. And so if you want true and pure love, it can't be held with fear as well. And so that's just the same idea. If you want to live a fruitful life, if you want to live a life of abundance, and not even only financially, but of joy and peace, it's like, okay, but if you're scrolling social media every day, that's feeding the beast in the worst way. And just to nail this point down even further, realizing that your inputs create your outcomes. You want a different outcome, change your input. And I feel like I've repeated this a few times, but that's the best way to kind of say it in a packaged way. If you keep having this one thought that's dragging you down, then change that thought. We have to be empowered that we can change our thoughts in our mind about things that serve us. And it's very simple. If a thought serves you, think on that. If it doesn't serve you and leads you down depression, anxiety, so forth and so on, get rid of it. If there's weeds in your garden, are you just gonna let it grow and choke up all the fruit and the flourishing grass that can happen, or are you gonna pluck out the wheat so you can be able to flourish mentally, just in your life in general? And what this does, it allows you to start to build mental strength and endurance. Now, I'm a person that chooses to do hard things, and I don't always love to do that. I enjoy working out sometimes, some days I don't. And I recently have been on a very big cold shower kick. And then obviously there's a ton of benefits. I'll put them on the screen right now. But even when you choose to get into cold water, your body still feels like it can't escape, like it didn't choose. Like your brain, the way your body reacts to it doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like you're in danger, which I thought was a crazy stat. And so the thing about that is, the more and more that I choose hard things, the easier it will allow me to go through challenging things that I didn't choose. It's a way to exercise your brain to gain endurance. Inevitably, when life happens and something bad happens, because it's life, we'll have a mechanism to work through that thing, because in different areas in our life, we're choosing to do hard things. And so now when something hard comes up, your automatic thought isn't bad. You're like, okay, wait, I've been here before. So now how do I work through this thought? How do I work through, what's happening to me right now, rather than just sinking to your lowest self? And again, choosing to do hard things. There's a book, I want to say it's called Anti-Fragility. Overall concept is that, the more and more you come against things that are hard or difficult in your life, then you'll become anti-fragile. It'll be harder to break. And that's essentially, what life is about, to be able to deal with the hard things, because we have no choice but to deal with them, because they're going to come regardless. Now, I'll leave you with these last words. Consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing.